welcome to the second part of our discussion with Wendy and Phil from Deakin. So Phil, you've recently completed this study, this pilot study around Authorship Investigate. First of all, can you just give us a bit of background as to why you decided to engage in this piece of research?
Yeah, so we've been engaged in a bunch of work around contract cheating detection. Can people spot it? In some of our studies we've found yes they can when we ask them to do it. We've done some work where we've trained people specifically on spotting contract cheating. That seems to work. It seems to lead to a significant increase in the rate that people correctly detect contract cheating, which is great. A challenge with some of our work on training is you've got to spend time training people. You've got to get a whole bunch of real contract cheating assignments and real student work. It's logistically quite a challenge, and it's fairly resource intensive to train people on this. So we've been working with Turnitin for 2 years. Yeah, around Authorship Investigate. We've had little bits of input into some various design things, which has been fantastic. And we said, can we please test this out and see if it actually works? To get on my little soapbox for a little bit, I think it's really important that vendors of assessment technologies open their work up to researchers to see if the stuff actually works. If you want to check out my work on online exam hacking, you can see some instances where it doesn't work. But yeah, so we were really interested in just seeing, does this thing actually work? Can Authorship Investigate actually improve the correct detection of contract cheating?
Great, and I think from our perspective, I totally agree that it's very important that these tools are tested in the real world, and that we get some empirical evidence as to are they effective, because otherwise, yeah, it's just marketing speak, and there's nothing behind it. Can you talk a little bit more then about the actual study itself, what it involved, and then I guess we'll come on to the results after that. Yeah, do you want to start, Phil?
Yeah, sure. So in our studies, we get a bunch of assignments. So we get some real student assignments that students allow us to use, and we go online and we buy some contract cheating assignments. It feels incredibly slimy doing that. It's not a pleasant experience at all. And Wendy has a great paper with a co-author of what the experience of that is. The title of that paper is "You Don't Always Get What You Pay For." And that's so we get the work, and we get real contract cheating work because there really is no substitute. So sadly we have to do that. We get that. We give it to real markers. So these are experienced people in a particular discipline at our university marking. We try and go across several different subject areas, so we're sure it's not just one weird thing about, I don't know, first year psychology or something. So we go across a bunch of different fields. They get the assignment and they have to make a decision on reading it. Is this contract cheating or is this legitimate? So in the study that we did, they did that. And then they had a copy of an Authorship Investigate report, and they were able to revise their decision. And then we compare statistically the numbers to see if there's sort of a meaningful difference between the two.
And these were markers you'd already guided on how to spot contract cheated papers?
No, these were people.
Ones you haven't, right.
And the thing with our studies is often they don't even know what contract cheating is when the study starts.
Right.
It's changed a fair bit over the time we've been doing it. I think there's more awareness, but they certainly were not experts.
Right. So it was just here's some papers. Just tell us if you think they've been contract cheated or not. Yeah. Okay. And what were the kind of results that you got from that study then?
Prior to using the Authorship Investigate report, they spotted a little bit less than half of it. So I think it was about 49%. And then with using the Authorship Investigate report, they spotted, I think it was 59%, so almost 3 in 5. Now that difference is a statistically significant difference. So we do some stats work to see, is this just kind of random guesses would achieve the same result, or is this something that's a real difference? And yeah, that was a significant improvement in accurate detection of contract cheating. Something that's important to note is we used a very early alpha version. So it's likely, very likely, I would think the product's only gotten better since then, and we're planning on doing follow-up work with Turnitin on sort of the version that people are currently using.
Were you surprised by those findings, or did you come into the study with any preconceptions in terms of what you think you'd find?
Look, I think this sort of problem, so the problem of contract cheating detection, does lend itself to getting a computer involved in some way. We know that there are things like sort of writing style things that are really hard for a person to see over time. Sometimes people say, oh, you could just give the markers all the work the student's ever written and they'll be able to see if there's a style difference. Well, no one's got time to do that. But a computer can really look at that work. So that makes sense, and work in the field of sort of document classification would tell us, maybe that's a likely thing. There's also metadata issues. And you can tell markers to look at the metadata of the assignments, but they don't all have the expertise to do that. Authorship Investigate does that really well. So it wasn't surprising, but it still was impressive.
I think also, if I can just add on there, that it wasn't really surprising in the sense that Phil and I had been involved right at the start in terms of seeing various, not even versions, but various iterations of the product, and how much work, particularly in the background, in the linguistic area, had gone on. It wasn't really surprising because the work that had been done was really, really thorough and very, very well investigated. So it made sense that it would only improve and get better over time, and that the kind of report that was given to an end user would actually be much more palatable and much easier to read and understand and be able to use in practice, given that a lot of markers will only have a very limited time to mark a certain paper. They might have 12 minutes, 15 minutes to mark, a standard 2,000 word paper. So they can't go through a 16-page report. It has to be done in a way that they can consume it, really.
Okay, so one final question, I think. So you've talked a bit about, obviously the tool itself will be iterated upon. We've got new versions coming out all the time, and you've highlighted the reasons why you think technology is a good fit for helping to address contract cheating, because of the difficult nature of it to spot without it, I guess, and to bring that evidence together. Do you have any more general thoughts about the future, and not even necessarily on contract cheating, but one of the topics that I'm also interested in, and maybe with you as well, is fairness of assessment. Do you see technology being a key role in general with that, and are there other key areas around, assessment design or other factors that should be a focus for fairer assessment and prevention of contract cheating in future?
I think technology will have a role to play, simply because student numbers and the demands on staff are such that it's not humanly possible for a human to actually just do the amount of work that's required to ensure that a piece of work is being done by the person that says that they're doing it or not, and whether that work, you would expect student work to perhaps improve, you would hope, over time in their course. But if there are these really big peaks, etc., you would want to investigate that in terms of fairness and equity. So I think certainly technology must have a role to play, because we've got larger numbers of students, fewer hours to do things, and as Phil said before, the technology can do a lot of that background work. It's always going to be a human decision, I must say. For any of these things, it is a human decision as to whether it's plagiarism, contract cheating, or anything else. But I think that the tools can be really, really useful in that sphere. Phil's probably better equipped to talk about assessment, because he's in the assessment centre.
Yeah, so I think the grand vision for assessment in the future is that we have people going about the work of learning in their area, and they are somehow accredited for having met certain learning outcomes just in the process of doing that work. So I think we may see fewer discrete acts of assessment, like go write an essay, but through all sorts of technology, people are monitored as to how they're achieving these things, and how we do that might sort of help with academic integrity because we're seeing it's them. I think in tandem though, we've got a whole sort of moral and ethical space around that. I think there's concerns around some new assessment technologies surveilling people and those sorts of things. And I think we as a society need to have a really good conversation about what are we happy with and what do we think really helps student learning.
I think that's a fascinating topic for a follow-up episode. But I think for now, thank you very much for your time, both of you. And
Pleasure.
Certainly we look forward to working with you with the future iterations of Authorship Investigate.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks for watching another episode of Integrity Matters by Turnitin. See you next time.